Good evening and welcome back to the show. I'm here on the set again with the, if you just recently joined us, with the CEO of FMPF, Mr. George Koroi, and the acting Chief Operation Officer, Mr. Pravnesh Singh. Now, Mr. CEO, how is FMPF's liquidity being managed?
Thank you very much, Christian. We've discussed before on the earlier segments that we are long-term investors. In principle, that is what we collect contributions and we invest for members' retirement. However, during this period, two things changed. One, contribution was reduced. The contribution rate was reduced. Withdrawals have gone up. In terms of managing liquidity, liquidity management is higher level than cash flow management. Cash flow is part of liquidity management. When you talk about liquidity management, you also include your assets. So a few things, there are a few levers that we can do. We can defer investments. We haven't done that. We can review contribution withdrawals. We haven't done that. So we've tried to operate as normal as possible. Having the initial assessment was, okay, maybe COVID will finish this time. So we are operating under different sets of scenarios now. And probably have talked about, we have also put in measures to take if there is a need for us to take. At the moment, we are sitting with about 520 million. That is more than sufficient to meet all those over 55 who want to come and withdraw. This is the first buffer that we look for. So we're keeping money for them. And we're maintaining all the operations that we are doing.
Thank you, sir. Now, are there plans to sell FMPF assets to meet commitments to members?
At this stage, based on the projections, we don't see the need to do that. But let me assure members that as part of asset and liability management, there's nothing wrong with that. I've explained earlier that a company, when it needs additional funds, it can go and borrow money. FMPF can't do that. It's there to protect the members. So matching the assets, if there's an increased call in liabilities, we'll convert some assets to cash. So it's just a conversion. There's nothing wrong about it. There's nothing illegal about it. It's all about liquidity management. But at this stage, we don't see the need to do that.
Thank you for that, sir. Now, Mr. Singh, how has FMPF been able to meet natural disaster payments like TC Herald, YASA, and the COVID-19 assistance? I understand that you've made more withdrawals than you would have made in a typical year for FMPF.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. I think we've covered that portion about how FMPF meets. It's from the reserves that we set aside. Maybe I'll just shed more light on what FMPF does when we are faced with these unforeseen situations like YASA, Herald, and the ones I mentioned in the past, Winston. And the most impactful one is the COVID, which has been here with us since last April. So what FMPF does operationally is we need to quickly set up a team to roll out this assistance. We need to do careful planning on our cash to be able to meet these payouts. But internally, it is a very structured process where we need to have our systems ready, our policies ready, our procedures ready, and also equally the people who will be rolling this assistance. So in terms of rolling out such assistance, FMPF is a very well-oiled machinery because we've done this in the past and we know what it entails. So even if I will give you an example of COVID, we didn't we were not expecting COVID. It hit the world all of a sudden, but we didn't have enough time to be able to plan. Unlike in a normal situation where we do product development, it goes through the various stages of product development life cycle. Here we needed to quickly come in. We needed to make sure our digital readiness was there. People who had lost job, we had mobile applications. We had the ESS facility available because of the social distancing limitations. And members were not able to go to the banks to get their bank account confirmations. The physical movements were limited. Around April, there were a number of towns and cities that were locked down, especially Ladoga city, one. Then later on, we locked down Suva. So the restriction of movement was there, but for processing, one of the very important requirements for FNPF is to make sure we confirm the bank accounts, because these are some of the pain points we encounter when we roll out natural disaster assistances, because members are not able to provide the bank statements. So we needed to take the decision, we needed to work with the banks. So on that aspect, we would like to also thank the banks for being very cooperative, for being very timely in terms of turning around our queries in terms of providing the bank account confirmations. Again, we would like to thank the government of the day for providing the top-ups for COVID assistance. To date, the government has for COVID paid in excess of $80 million to members who are being either fully topped up or partly topped up. And then again, FNPF from its own funds have paid in excess of 110 million. So these are the amounts that FNPF has paid for COVID. Again, we would like to thank the Association of Banks for being able to get all the banks together to pay out COVID assistance. And again, we need to also thank our staff who have sacrificed their time to, sometimes it's late in the night that we need to keep them back so that they can process the payments on the scheduled dates. That's the Tuesdays every week. And during TCASA, we had to send our teams to the Northern Division, and the teams sacrificed the Christmas break, the New Year break, to be able to assist the members who were affected. So again, the teams are quite passionate about these things, and we've proven this in the past. Whenever such incidents happen, our team are always there on the ground to be able to take the members' first hand and assist them.
Thank you for that, Mr. Sina. Unfortunately, time is catching up on us.
Okay.
And Mr. CEO, what are the plans for FNPF investments in hotels with the borders closed? As we understand that one of the most fatal casualty of COVID-19 is the tourism industry.
That's right. Thank you, Christiana. I think a few things. One, for the members to note, all our investments in tourism accounts for about 8% of the portfolio. Although from a GDP perspective, tourism is over 40%, 42% of the GDP. In terms of our portfolio, it's only 8%. So when the economy is affected, 42% of the economy is affected, only 8% of our portfolio is affected. And some other investments are doing well under this environment. We have our investments in the telecommunication industries. Consumption of data has grown. So we continue to benefit. This is the benefit of diversification. Although most of our investments are still in Fiji, we are affected because of that investment in tourism, but it's only 8%. We are working with all our hotels to try and work them through this process. Some have gone through the renovation stages to make sure that they are ready when the border opens. I think there's also good signs coming up now in terms of vaccination.
Thank you for that. And finally, what is the outlook for the year 2021 and 2022?
Good question. I think there are some good things to talk about. Of course, vaccinations are beginning to happen around the world, so that will give travelers the confidence to travel. But I think the key challenge is when will that happen? Whether it's first half of this year or second half of this year. So those are or even into next year. Those are the various scenarios that we take into considerations when we plan conduct our cash flow and liquidity management. All those are part of scenarios and stress levels that we take.
Thank you for that, Mr. CEO, and thank you both so much for coming on the show tonight. Well, there you have it. You understand now that your fund is safe, as you understand that there are independent institutions that review the governance of funds so that power is not invested in one particular person or a set of people. Join us again next week for another episode of Talk Business right here on Fiji One. Remember, for questions, you can always send us an email at news@fijitv.com.fg or simply give us a call at 330-5100. Until next week, Nisamwadamanda.